Physically, the HTC One is one of the best made phones on the market. The aluminum construction and intense attention to detail makes it easily worth the price tag. Even though the new one looks and feels great, it isn't without its flaws. The unibody aluminum design makes the M8 prone to little nicks and scratches that won't show up on the Nexus 5, and it feels a bit slippery in the hands. The Nexus 5 also has a nice solid build, but it's solid in a different way. Instead of aluminum, LG opted to go with a matte rubbery finish that's similar to the feel of the Asus Nexus 7. Chances are a case isn't completely necessary when rocking the Nexus 5, simply because it won't collect those light scratches that seem to plague most aluminum phones. However, one thing it does seem to collect is little oily splotches on the back, but that can be easily cleaned with some spray and a cleaning cloth. One thing HTC again did a great job with on the HTC One is the front-facing speakers. This new iteration features a 25% louder sound, but the quality doesn't suffer when cranking up the volume to full. For me, the Nexus 5 speakers were a complete disappointment. First of all, they're located on the bottom of the device, and sound only comes out on the left side of the micro USB port. Plus, sound starts to really fuzz out as you raise the volume. So for me, the Nexus 5 was definitely lacking in the speaker department. The HTC One's 5-inch display is really stunning. The full 1080p resolution comes in at 441 pixels per inch, colors are ultra vibrant, crisp, and not oversaturated. But it's not noticeably better than the Nexus 5's 4.95-inch screen, which is also 1920 by 1080 and boasts slightly more pixels at 445 per inch. The new HTC One runs 4.4.2 KitKat with its own custom skin overlaid. Sense 6.0 brings some cool new features like motion launch, which lets you choose gestures to unlock your phone. For example, double tapping will just unlock it, swiping down will go to the dialer app, and etc. Another pretty cool feature that I've enjoyed experimenting with is the Fitbit app. The HTC One has these so-called smart sensors that allow the One to track steps exactly the same way your Fitbit does. And for those that don't want to wear a fitness tracking device or always end up losing them like me, it's a really convenient feature, and overall, Sense 6.0 is an ultra-fast experience and it adds some pretty useful features to the table. The Nexus 5 currently runs the latest version of Android, 4.4.2 KitKat, and what's fantastic about Nexus branded phones is that they will always be the first to be updated to the newest versions of Android, while other devices like the M8 here will receive the updates several weeks or even months later. The user experience is probably the best of any device I've ever used, but the only downside is that it doesn't have the same amount of features as something like the HTC One. The HTC One rocks a Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 clocked at 2.3 GHz, has 2 GB of RAM, and Adreno 330 GPU. The Nexus 5 uses a Snapdragon 800 clocked at 2.3 GHz, 2 GB of RAM, and also has the Adreno 330 GPU. And if you're interested in finding gaming and benchmark tests for both of these devices, then be sure to check out the link in the description below. The camera on the HTC One is pretty good, but it isn't amazing. It keeps the 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera, but it adds a depth sensor on top of it, which does a good job at focusing the picture and allowing the user to do some cool post-production work. I'm not going to go into all of that because this is just a comparison video between the two, but I'll discuss that more in the full review of the HTC One 2014. Moving on to the battery life, the HTC One completely killed it here. I was able to last a full 14-hour long day and still have about 20% left. When HTC claimed that the 2600 mAh battery was 40% better than the original, I really started to question it, but they really weren't kidding. In my experience, the Nexus 5's battery hasn't been great. It was fine going long periods of time when idle, but the screen just seemed to drain the battery like crazy. Now the HTC One is a great device. It features the new Sense 6.0, superb build quality, and a great display, but the price may be too high. The Nexus 5 offers a great stock Android experience and solid specs, all at an incredibly low $350 price tag, but the lack of expandable storage and a subpar battery may be a deal breaker for you. Which phone is better? Well, that choice has to be made for yourself.